I promise you, whoever you think your favorite superhero is, that is not an accurate representation of the character.
Is there one that you would say is like the most influential in a bad way, in the sense that maybe they were co-opted by this group or that group and kind of became like a negative symbol?
The Punisher and the Punisher logo. So they're like any idiot can take an image and then repurpose it, right? And we see these sort of like reinterpretations of characters. It's not hard to find like, white nationalist propaganda that uses, maybe like Captain America or Hydra or something along those lines. But the Punisher phenomenon of the logo used by law enforcement and by people who are in support of law enforcement has since like 2014, 2012, somewhere in there, has been unreal. He legitimizes unintentionally, but he does legitimize a certain feeling felt among a particular demographic. That is to say, working class, white American males, particularly younger men, but, that sort of demographic, by validating their conspiratorial ideas, right? And he has often been this image of like, when the law fails, this is what you do. And he is a variation of the Western cowboy trope, right? Of like, there is no law but the man with the gun kind of thing. And so I find the Punisher stories really compelling. I enjoy them a lot. But also, I always like to tell folks, like, it's okay to like Frank Castle if you understand Frank Castle doesn't like Frank Castle, right? There's a comic where Captain America just, beat him black and blue. And he did not fight back because it was Captain America. And also because on some level, the Punisher knows like he has it coming, right? But that gets lost on the folks who have the thin blue line Punisher logo, right, in support of the police, or who are police themselves, which is a real concern.
Did publishers know this? Do publishers kind of know this and buy into it? Like, hey, we're really picking up some traction amongst angry teens.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go ahead and push this forward.
Oh, yeah. One of the co-creators of the Punisher, because the Punisher was meant to be an indictment of the legal system, right? That's the whole thing, right? His family is killed because of the criminal element in New York City that is also working in conjunction with law enforcement. And the Punisher is therefore, as Archie Goodwin put it in an editorial note in one of the early Punisher comics, he says the Punisher is a problem that is worse. The Punisher is a solution that is worse than the problem that created him, right? That's the whole ethos behind the character. But Jerry Conway, who co-created the Punisher back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, said recently when he saw that there were people protesting against Black Lives Matter by wearing the Punisher logo and the whole Blue Lives thing, said like, you guys got it wrong. The Punisher doesn't support law enforcement. He's not that kind of guy. Y'all need to stop doing it. And actually, he did a fundraiser where he sold shirts in support of Black Lives Matter, of where the logos were artists putting their own spin on the Punisher logo to sort of reclaim that contested symbol. To what extent it's effective, I guess, is anyone's guess. We'll see what happens down the line. But at one point, like there's a Punisher comic where, and I'm talking like circa 2018, 2019, maybe in 2020, where Frank Castle confronts two officers who have the Punisher logo like on their shirts. And he rips up the logo, or no, he takes it off of a car is what it is. He takes a decal off the car and he rips it up. And he says, look, if you want a role model, you look at Captain America. I do what I do. You don't do that. And if you do that, I'll put a bullet in you. Right. So, yeah, they absolutely know on some level these kind of discourses.
Most influential superhero of all time. And influential in the sense that like a broader impact on society.
There's no one answer in my humble opinion. However, there are some top contenders, we'll say, okay? Superman, 1938, is the first, like, declared superhero. Bearing in mind, we've been playing with those themes for a while, but he's like the first superhero. Prior to that, you have, like, pulp heroes like Doc Savage or the Phantom or, John Carter from Mars, right? And it's hard to overstate his significance. That being said, I would also put in that similar category characters like Wonder Woman, who was dealing with a lot of interesting things, again, sexually subversive at the time. The lasso was meant to be a combination of the lie detector, right? The lasso of truth was a lie detector test, which Bill Marston was involved in the creation of. It was also an aspect of sexual bondage and the flipping of gender roles and dynamics, which Bill Marston was a huge advocate for, right? Although he had some unfortunate, like, biologically reductive perceptions on that, all the same, that's the kind of idea that was there. So that was a huge thing. I would also put in Will Eisner's The Spirit, because everyone, if you like reading comics, if you like people who create comics, it is almost without a shadow of a doubt, they have like read Will Eisner, because he was so foundational and so influential. And The Spirit was a sort of detective kind of story, sort of like proto Batman a little bit, who his public persona, his civilian identity died. And so he became the Spirit as a vigilante and all that kind of stuff. And so we see a lot of those early tropes. He comes about in 1940. And then, you know, you have like your Captain Americas and folks like that who are continuing on these. So I would say in that early group, but also if you want a more modern answer, Spider-Man. It is hard to overstate the value of Spider-Man. There's a reason his face has been on like the majority of Marvel comics since the 60s. It's because he's one of the best selling and therefore highly circulated and pop culturally known superheroes.
He's the most like a real person, right? Like he was an average guy.
Yeah. In many ways, Peter Parker couldn't catch a break, right? And even more so because legacies are such a big deal in superhero narratives, right? Of who takes on the mantle next, all that kind of stuff. He has spawned some really successful mantles, some really successful legacies like Miles Morales, like Miguel O'Hara, like Jessica Drew, like the list goes on.
Most controversial comic storyline of all time.
I go back to the 1974 issue, like run of Secret Empire, where Captain America watches Nixon shoot himself in the Oval Office. Like, I have a hard time beating that. Although they're certainly out there.
Like, how does that get through? Right? Like,
right. They never say it's Nixon. Steve Rogers runs to the president's office, sees number one, right, in this Secret Empire hierarchy, encounters number one, and then he you hear the bang as he reacts in horror to whoever this is killing himself. But who is going to be number one in this hierarchy and also in the Oval Office? It's obviously Nixon. So I have a hard time getting past that. But I mean, you know, take your pick. Goodness gracious. There was a story where Carol Danvers, right, Captain Marvel, she ran away to another dimension with an alien. This is like circa 1980s, I want to say. She ran away to another dimension with an alien who like she fell in love with, and then like has this child. And then you like, she comes back and you find out that she was brain controlled by this alien. Like he literally psychologically dominated her, convinced her to go to his home dimension where he impregnated her. And then she gives birth to basically an avatar of him so that he can be reborn with even better powers. And like, and that's, yeah. And then the other heroes are like, how could we have known? What do you mean? Like they kind of blame her a little bit for everything that happened. It's kind of nuts. So the X-Men stuff, I mean, if you want to talk like controversial, when they made Magneto into a Holocaust survivor, I would suggest that was controversial in a positive way, because he wasn't originally. He wasn't originally a Holocaust survivor. That wouldn't happen until the Chris Claremont run in the 1980s, I believe. So yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of wild controversies that happen. It's just a matter of what you think. But again, I go back to Nixon shooting himself in the Oval Office.
Yeah, the president taking himself out is going to be pretty high up there on the list.
The sitting
right?
president at the time killing himself.